Uh, so first of all, I'm absolutely delighted. Dr. Corrie Block. How are you this morning? How are you today? I was just saying this morning, but how are you today? How's your
Yeah,
day been?
I am so excited to be here. Actually, it's lovely to meet you, and it's lovely to meet your audience. And I'm really excited about this chat because my friend was like, "Oh, you have to meet Andrew because he's like you. He's got that energy." And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be really good." So yeah, I'm really just excited and happy to
It's
see you.
going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun. We're going to be bouncing off against each other. I can just sense your I can just kind of the effervescence of Dr. Corrie Block. So we have some fairly standard questions
Go
just to
on.
kind of give you an idea about why we do it.
Yeah.
We're constantly aware of that kind of avalanche of AI coming in, and we've got chat coming in.
Mhm.
We've got all this kind of like the future is almost upon us, probably gone past us already. I was reading the other day that if you're ever caught in an avalanche,
Yeah.
put your hands across your face like that, and you can create an air pocket. So we're trying to create an air pocket. We're just trying to explore some extraordinary people. Dr. Corrie, you definitely fit into that category. So we ask you some questions. We have a mystery question, question number 7, and we have a bit of a giggle really for about 30 minutes. So let's ask our first question. Really, is this where you kind of saw yourself? So when you started your career, is it kind of where you wanted to be now, or did you have a deviant or changing path?
Oh goodness. Honestly, I always really wanted to help people and I always really wanted to solve problems, but my addiction that I've been feeding my entire life is competency. I collect competencies. I don't have a greed muscle. I don't want to take over an island. I don't care about authority. What I really care about is I like to understand the way the world works. And so I've always been addicted to collecting these competencies. Can I do this? Can I understand that? And so, yeah, I think as the product of all of the competencies that I've collected over the years, I think this is pretty much where I could be or should be. I've lived the potential of my life fairly well, I think, until now. And look, it's not arrogant if it's true, right? So I think I've done okay. I think my litmus test for this is if I have a conversation with my 8-year-old self, is he proud? Does he think what I'm doing is cool? Yeah.
I have the same question. I think if I kind of like was transported back to when I was maybe 8 years old, that's a bit scary for me. But that's almost 50 years now. But if I was transported back to my 8-year-old self, I think I would just be like, jaw-droppingly, wow, that's amazing. How the heck did that happen? That's really cool. So I'm very curious though. You're a collector of competency. So what do you think is your favorite competency you've collected?
Oh, right now it's evolutionary psychology and neuroplasticity. So those are the things that tickle me at the moment. I've always become curious about things and then, scratched my itch with a PhD or a master's degree or some sort of certification. But the most exciting one recently is just understanding how the brain has evolved over the last million years and how we're full of tools that are designed to help us to survive in a world that no longer exists, and how we don't have the tools that we need to help us survive in the world that we created for ourselves, right? Like we live in the most abundant time in all of human history. We have better technology and communications and transportation and opportunities and economics and all of that. Like everything is just so much better now than it used to be, but our brains haven't evolved really to adapt to that yet. And so the challenges of like comfort and complexity, we don't really have tools for that. So I think that's for me has been the most fun part, is dealing with the way the world is rather than the way the world was.
And again, that's a major part of what we're trying to sort of discover here in these conversations. So it's really, I mean, where do you see us going in the next 5 years? I mean, the brain's obviously not going to catch up in the next 5 years. So kind of what are the kind of like, what are the competencies that the extraordinary human being needs to learn, do you think, in the next 5 years?
Oh goodness. I think managing complexity is the big one. Our ancestors survived in very, very simple times, but very threatening times, right? So your ancestors earned you the right to be born by surviving floods and famine and disease and war, right? But they had a very simple life. It was not complex. They didn't have more than 250 acquaintances during the entire span of their life, which would last about 40 to 45 years on average. Up until the Industrial Revolution, that was pretty much the case in most of the world. And now we're living like to 80 or 90 years. We're having 4,500 human interactions every day on average. And we don't have tools for managing the complexity of that. There's no upper limit. There's no limit where your brain says, okay, that's enough. That's enough. You can't handle anymore. And so what we end up doing is we become overwhelmed and we become burnt out, because the task list is always growing, and it doesn't matter how much we do, there's more to do. And at the end of every day, all of the things that we're leaving on our task list are good things, right? Like, we're not leaving bad things behind. There's just there's many more good things to do than can ever be done. And none of our ancestors had to deal with that, right? So we have no tool. Like, how do you deal with the fact that there's just too many good things to do every day? Like, we live in
honestly, apparently I was reading a report the other day, 48 a minute. It was being suggested to me the other day that it was literally 48. I'm interacting, with 48 different systems, processes, people every 60 seconds. So what you just said there completely resonates with me. We're kind of like completely being bombarded with this amazing kind of stuff. And it's quite incredible, really, isn't it? So I think but that kind of leads me into our sort of next question, really. So obviously that's a massive challenge then, because my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my father, from a leadership perspective, had it probably perhaps different challenges, but maybe slightly simpler, less complex. So what does being a great leader mean to you as we kind of move into the next 5 years, do you think?
Oh, this is a really good question, Case. So this is the biggest difference between management and leadership is who chooses them, right? Managers are chosen by other managers, but leaders are chosen by followers. So the challenge of leadership, if you want to be a leader, is always the same. You have to live a life worthy of being followed. Leaders aren't chosen by each other, right? Leaders are chosen by the people behind them. And if you want to know if you're a leader, just look around, right? If somebody's following you, emulating you, learning from you, then yes, you're a leader. And if nobody's following you, you're just going for a walk. That's John Maxwell. But yeah, I think that still rings true. And if you want to I am a leadership guru. I'm an expert in the field, but if you want to learn leadership now, don't follow me, follow the science, because that's actually what I'm doing. I'm learning from the science what it is to live a life that's worthy of being followed. And some of those things are talents and some of them are skills, but a lot of it can be learned.
Yeah, I'm loving the Maxwell quote. I was chatting to some guys from Harvard, very old friends of mine, and they were saying to me the other day. I asked them a question about leadership, and they said, "Look over your shoulder, Stotts. If people are following you, then you classify as a leader. If people aren't, I think people get too hooked up on job title. In my experience, anyway, I can make a big difference if I had a big job title. No, I don't.
So I was in a big organization just about 6 months ago, 4,500 employees. Okay. And I won't tell you the name of the organization. It's here in the UAE. They brought me in and they said, okay, we need your help revamping our what do they call it? The Future Leaders Program. So as the future leaders of the organization, I said, okay, good. What's your criteria? How are you selecting your future leaders? And they said, we base it first on performance. They're meeting their KPIs. People like them. They have a good reputation. And then we do psychometrics. We've got all these cool psychometric tools. And then if they're scoring about right, then we put them into the Future Leaders Program. And I'm like, wow, that is so not how leaders are chosen. They were like, what? We poured millions into this. And I was like, yeah, okay, first of all, you're going to get really angry with me, but we just need to take all of that into the bin just for now. And what I'd like you to do is run a very simple survey. And I want you to ask every employee in the company, okay, who are the 3 people in this company that you respect the most? Who are the 3 people that you go to for help when you need help in this organization? And if anybody was to leave this organization and you were to follow them, who would it be? That's it, right? Super simple. But then the word cloud from that, we got to see who the actual leaders were, right? If you want to know who your leaders are, find out who your followers are following. So the leadership structure of the organization became very clear, and it was not anything close to the management structure.
And that is just, there's lots of kind of I've been sort of playing and dabbling with some software, and that kind of looks at where all the communication traffic goes, where all the decisions are being made. So yeah, exactly what you're saying is who's being asked to solve problems, because that's the follower and the leaders, right? They're the people who really make it happen in the organization, not the people with the job title sitting in the shiny office. That is truly world class, Dr. Corrie. I love this question. We touched on it earlier about being 8, but if you were trying to explain what you do to a 5-year-old, how would you describe your job to a 5-year-old?
I help people be the best version of themselves.
Very, very
simple.
I'm
an executive coach, right? And so I have to believe that every single one of my coachees is capable of more than they can possibly be alone. And that's the same for all of us. Actually, we're very social creatures. We can't possibly be at our strongest if we're not with each other. We have to be with each other in order to be at our strongest. So I help people be the best versions of themselves.
I've been learning. I think that's a beautiful analogy. Is that I've been sort of practicing the art of the hug.
Yeah.
I kind of come across some very amazing South African guys. Willie, if you're listening, we love you, mate. But he was saying that we need to really kind of like start working on our hugging. It's quite fascinating. Yeah. And I've been really trying to practice my hugging, and it's quite amazing how many people actually want to sort of maintain the hug with you. It's really quite cool. I mean, I don't kind of just go into random strangers and do it, but I'm kind of pushing the boundaries all the time with hugging. People really like it. It's that, but it is absolutely, as you said, it's the connectivity between other human beings, right? It's that kind of like that natural connection, and people are desperately sort of like looking for that. I run it's a silly little, well, it's not silly really to me. I think it's quite a fascinating survey. We run a survey every day and we ask people how they're feeling. And it's actually really, really sad. I've got a massive, I'm a huge advocate of kind of, challenging mental health and trying to understand mental health. And I really try and beat the drum around that. And we've got my great friends kind of like, Scott Armstrong, who really kind of helps as well. And so sometimes even people like me who are kind of high energy, really enthusiastic, really trying to connect, really trying to heal society and communities. Do you have bad days? I know I have bad days. I mean, how do you cope with your bad days?
Yeah, sure. Of course. Everybody has bad days. I assign new frames and I assign new meaning to them, right? And I allow my bad days to be bad, right? But I give them a time limit. So if I'm like, if something has gone really, really askew and it really is all just an unmet expectation of mine that, I think the world should work a certain way and it's not working the way that I think it should work. And so I'm disappointed in the way the world is working, right? So it's a disappointment that stems from an unmet expectation. Now I can realign my expectation and then it's met, right? But more often than not, I have to wait for those chemicals to burn out, the cortisol, the adrenaline and all that. And so what I do is I just put a time limit on it. Okay, I can be really irritated for the next 23 minutes. And at the top of the hour, I'm going to get back to work, right? Like that's it. But it gives me the permission to feel that negative energy because I earned all of that negative energy from the million years of successful survival and adaptation that earned me the right to be born, right? When the world doesn't work the way you expect, then you feel a certain way. So you have to give yourself room to feel it. And if you don't give yourself room to feel it, then you kind of bottle it up and you carry it over to the next day and your brain doesn't know quite what to do with it. So feel your way through it and then get on with it. Because there's just so much more to do in the day than just feel that way for the rest of the day. I've never, it's maybe I can count on one hand the number of times I've let something ruin my whole day.
You are my brother. Honestly, I'm listening. I'm just listening to you. I think it's a choice, right? I definitely think it's a choice. I mean, it's very easy. I could easily sort of like dip into moping around, but I do kind of feel I have a choice. When I go to work every day, I've got this kind of like, people are a bit kind of like, wow, that's, who's just got into the elevator? Because I play with people in the elevator a lot. We have a lot of fun in the elevator, and I really engage. And I've got this big thing about kind of smiling at strangers. But I kind of, they say, where did you get your energy from? Why are you so energetic? But it's like a choice, because I just kind of know that unfortunately, it's a difficult one to understand this, but I spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with myself. I have done for the last 57 years. So therefore, if I might as well be enjoying myself. For that, occasionally I get bitten. I do occasionally get bitten by people, but the vast majority, 99, one in 1,000 might bite me. But then I kind of think, well, whatever. If they want to be Mr. Grumpy or they want to be Miss Grumpy, that's absolutely fine. I am actually not going to impact my kind of like my aura. I just refuse to do it. So, but it's a choice, right? And I'm absolutely loving that. Who inspires you?
Who inspires me? Oh goodness, is a really good question. Like professionally speaking, I love Simon Sinek. I like the way that he talks, and he's very emotionally intelligent, but he's not enough. There's not enough science in what he says to really tickle me. But then on the other side of the science, I'm really inspired by Stephen Kotler, who's very science-based, but he's not as great of a speaker. And so I think probably it depends on the domain. I'm really inspired by
They
my
need to have
kids.
children. They need to have children. Let's get those. Let's
Yes,
get those two to have kids. Can
they
they have
need
kids?
maybe
Probably
I'm the
can't do
kid.
it. Probably not
That's
in this
me.
region.
I'm really inspired by my own children. My son's 22, my daughter is 18, and they
No
are
way. No
Yep.
way. Hang on. Just rewind. This is push. What? Yeah. How? Okay. You look about 18. How have you managed to have a child of 22? How is that even possible, Dr. Corrie? Is there some magic cream? Is there magic cream? Is there there must be some secret. Come on, what's the secret?
There is definitely some secret to this. I'm 48.
Wow.
And if you spend any time at all looking at my LinkedIn, you'll know like I've done a lot. I've done a lot in my life. I've started and exited 5 of my own companies. I've got 2 master's degrees, 2 PhDs. I've written, published 7 books. I've raised 5 kids. Like it's a lot I've done. But and that I think is just a testament to what can be done. And I just think the world is such an awesome playground. And my inspiration generally comes from people who are playing really well in almost any domain, right? Like I see my kids off becoming, contributing members of society, and they've got a vision for their lives and they're following it and they know exactly what they want to do and they're chasing that. And I'm like, man, that's great, because there's so many people that are just lost. They're just spoiled for choice. We have so much abundance in front of us that we don't know what to pick, right? It's like being at a dessert buffet, but you're only allowed like 3 things. So what do? We're spoiled for choice and we become kind of paralyzed into not doing anything or doing a lot less than we could because, well, there's just too many cool things to do. So my inspiration comes from people who are doing a lot, taking risks in whatever context that they're in. A lot of those people are my coachees, actually. And I signed with Marshall Goldsmith on this. He's a friend of mine too. And he says that he gets a lot of inspiration from the people that, that are paying him to be inspiring. To be fair, like that's actually true. I spend so much time with these incredible men and women who have responsibility over, I think now the total number of employees in my coaching cohort is about 250,000. And wow. Yeah, so that for me, that's such an amazing thing. Like I get to be the wizard in the king's chamber where the king is saying, okay, like these are the strategic decisions I'm facing right now. These are the political challenges I'm facing. And plus, I've got this challenge outside of the office that I'm facing. And I'm like, okay, I've got tools for that. Here's your tools. Here's the magic. Here's your potions, right? Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. But the fact that they're dealing with that level of influence and that level of complexity day after day after day, that's really wizardly work. Like it is very inspiring to me just to hang out in those rooms with those incredibly highly productive people. So yeah, my clients, my kids, my wife is an incredible inspiration for me. She's an executive in an airline here in the UAE, and she is so passionate about her crew, right? About the culture of her crew. She's like, she comes home and she gets really frustrated when there's an injustice to one of her crew. And it's like, oh, I can't believe that, we haven't taken care of them the way that we should. And she's consistently calling her crew saying, we're with you. I've got you. What can I do for you? And she's like constantly just serving them as best she can. And I think that for me is a reflection of the best of humanity when we really feel the responsibility for caring for those that are in our economic tribes. And we treat them like our economic tribesmen, and we care for them and we love them and we pursue their success. Like that for me is incredible.
Honestly, Corrie, it costs nothing at all. I get quite a lot of mud thrown at me because I kind of lead with the idea that it's being kind and caring and people, oh, you're too caring, Andrew. We shouldn't be caring so much about these people. It's like they're absolutely the center of the universe. These senior leaders say, oh, you're too kind to our frontline team members. What the heck are you talking about? Those frontline team members keep you in your bed. They keep you in your office. We need to be asking a lot more questions. How can we be rude to those people?
Exactly right. I have to show you something. Just you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. Okay, this is the only physical copy that exists of my book. It'll be coming out in about a month from now. It's called Love at Work.
Love work. Oh yes, absolutely. That's my favorite word. I keep telling people I love them actually, Corey. That's one of my new things. It's a bit slow. People are slowly kind of warming to it. It's quite strange. I think there's so many people out there who never get told that. I mean, I'm married for 30 years, like you, and I'm married for a long time, and I have two. I'm not in your league. I have 2 children. Crikey, 5. That's amazing. But we've always brought our children up to say, to tell other people that we obviously tell our kids every day, 10 times a day, 20 times a day, that we love them. I think it's really important. But I've started kind of moving out now, and it's actually so many people never hear anybody say, "I love you." And it's just being kind and caring about people. Oh my gosh, we're going to have such an amazing time together. This is going to be such an amazing relationship. Listen, here's a question for you, because obviously we've got Generation Alpha now. They're just coming to the end of their, we're just about to go into Generation Beta in 2024, 25. So advice for Generation Alpha? I mean, I was interviewed recently by an 11-year-old, very, very curious, and she was asking me how to talk to boys. Not sure I'm the expert on how to talk to boys, but anyway, that's what she asked me. So I was quite fascinated. She goes, I don't know how to do it, because I can do the emoji, I can do the emojis quite well. I've got my thumb and that kind of stuff. But how do I do it, Andrew? So advice for Gen Alpha?
Yeah, do the hard things. Do them because they're hard. Yeah, look, they're growing up in a level of comfort and convenience that has never existed in the entire human history, right? Like that level of comfort, the idea that you can eat 3 times a day and that you can eat whatever you want 3 times a day, the idea that you can be entertained at a whim, the idea that you can, swipe right and have a relationship, like it's just so convenient and so comfortable that they're going to be bored. They're apex predators, and they're the latest iteration in 10,000 generations of a successfully improving design. And if they don't learn to challenge themselves and put themselves in difficult positions where apex predators should be, they're going to be really frustrated with the level of comfort and the level of convenience on the planet. And so my recommendation is just pick hard things and do hard things and do them because they're hard. That's what's really valuable.
Because I think that's that kind of, that word, grit, and people kind of really don't understand it. But I just think if I really look at my life, and it's just that grit has made me definitely has contributed hugely to who I am. And I think that's the adversity, right? It's the challenge. And my sons, both my kids are in their mid-20s now, but I think one of the things that's really made them successful, particularly my son, is this idea that he spent 2 years of his life kind of cold calling and being told to kind of F off, which I think was really fascinating. And to his absolute incredible my incredible pride, he just kept on doing it. And but he learned so much about humanity. He's an HR manager now. But he learned. I mean, I'm sure he gets told to fuck off as an HR manager as well. Let's move on from there. But the reality is that I think that 2.5 years of his life where he was constantly told every day, 5 times, 10 times a day, F off, F off, F off, phone getting slammed down, and having to build that instant connection with people drives that. Just doing the difficult things, right? Because I think people, if he was in a job where it was just easy, he'd never have learned to a level, the mastery now of connecting with other people. It's just amazing. Hey, this is a lovely conversation, mate. I've got this is the mystery question. So we need a question from you in a minute. Let's ask you the mystery question first of all. This is quite a challenging one. This actually did come from another psychologist, to be fair.
All right.
So he was asking, what should you have done 30 years ago that you need to do now? I mean, you sound like you've done it. I've done everything.
What should I have done 30 years ago that I need to do now?
Yeah.
Okay, 30 years ago. No, but I've already got that now. Something that I need to do now? Nothing. Like nothing comes to mind that I should have done 30 years ago. Honestly, everything that I did then, I'm very gracious with my past selves, and I did the best I could with what I had. I was very, very honest and very transparent and very authentic in the way that I was, even in my 20s as a young man. So I would credit myself with that and say, actually, you know what? All the things that went right, and the things that went wrong. But you know what? You gave it a good shot.
How do you do authenticity? Because that's one of the challenges. I mean, I get criticized for being too authentic, right? I mean, it's I know Adam connected us, but I I'm constantly being criticized for being too authentic, and I just don't give a damn, to be honest with you. I've got to a point now where I just think, nah, sod off. This is who I am. Take me or leave me. If you don't want me, that's fine. But this is who I am. It's quite brave. Other people say, how can I be more authentic? How can people be more authentic, Corey?
They have to take the risk. They have to take the risk, but here's the reward. Okay. So this is one thing that I did actually 30 years ago when I was a young man. Just before I turned 20, I had proposed to my first wife. We're no longer married. We were married for 22 years. Amazing adventures, absolutely incredible. Don't feel bad. But we were just about to get married, and I made a decision, right? I had grown up in a house where there was a lot of fighting between my parents, and the fighting was usually the product of secrets that were being held between the two of them. And so I decided that I would just like to really live a life that didn't have any secrets in it. But for me to do that, somebody else was going to have to know everything that there was to know about me that was even remotely interesting, all the good stuff and all the bad stuff. So I told my then fiance, like, I want to live a life without secrets, and would you be willing to hear all of this? And, you know, she didn't have to join in, but she did. She joined in, and we just decided to live this incredibly authentic life with each other. We would just tell each other like everything. And then when we got divorced as a result of some secrets moving in, and she went on an adventure that I wasn't invited on, and decided that she wanted a different kind of life that didn't include me. So that was fine, but it meant that when I found my next wife, so my next relationship with my current wife, Nicole, we've been married now 4 years, I had to bring her into this decision that I had made. And so when we were deciding to get married, I said, listen, we need to sit down and talk, because I've decided to live without secrets. And that means I need to spend some time telling you everything that's even remotely interesting about me that you should know before we get married, so that if at any point, my life is magically broadcast on CNN, you can sit beside me and hold my hand, and some of it will be really awkward, but none of it will be a surprise. And she's like, really? And I said, yeah, I never want you in the future to ever say, well, you didn't tell me about that. Right. So I said, so we sat down, and she decided to do the same. And it took a couple of days, and it was really, really awkward. But here's the payoff for being that authentic, for choosing a life that without secrets. I absolutely know for a fact, Andrew, that I am truly, truly loved for who I truly am. And the only reason I'm confident in that fact is because I know for a fact I am truly known for who I truly am. And that takes work and risk and that kind of level of authenticity.
It's scary, right? It's scary.
I'm not like that with everybody. I don't tell everybody all of my secrets, but my covenant partner and best friend, Nicole, she knows everything there is to know about me that's even remotely interesting, good and bad. And she loves me just the same. And that helps me to sleep at night. And so probably my advice is, to others, that's the thing you should have done 30 years ago that maybe you should do now, is just put your pitch in the sand and say, actually, I just want to live an authentic life. And maybe it's a parent, a sibling, a best friend, or maybe it's also your spouse, but find somebody on the planet that can hear everything there is to know about you, so that you know that you're truly loved for who you truly are.
I just got that kind of like that avalanche of love just sort of washing over me, Dr. Corrie. Question for our next guest.
Yes.
Be so difficult. That was a difficult one. That was a difficult one. I think you've done incredibly well. Give me a difficult question for our next guest.
So this is the question that was given to me by my professor in my very first class, in my first master's degree. I was doing a master's in global leadership. My very first class, my very first assignment was this assignment. You ready?
Yo, go on.
What's the 300-year plan for your life?
Oh gosh. What is a 300-year plan for your life? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Long after your children's children's children have forgotten your name, what echo of you remains in this world?
That is stellarly amazing. Wow.
It's a clarifying question if you attack it properly. Yeah.
That is just amazing. Hey, listen, I'm really excited. I've got to tell you I love you, and I've got to give you a hug tomorrow as well, which will be very, very exciting. I'm really excited to kind of go to eye to eye with you. That'd be absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
If you want to get hold of you, Corrie, how do we get hold of you? How do these? There's no one listens to this show. But if anyone wants to get, that's a bit of a lie. Sorry. I'm not being a bit untruthful. But if someone wants to get hold of Dr. Corrie, but they know how to get hold of me. I'm every bloody where. If they want to get hold of you, Corrie, how do they do that?
Just follow my name. Google knows me really well. Put me into Google, and then my website, LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. That's my primary channel. Yeah, connect with me there and reach out. If there's anything I can do to help you or support you, I will try.
You are my brother from a different mother. We are kindred spirits. Adam, I'm in your debt. He's amazing. Mr. Dr. Block, what an amazing chat. Hey, it's great listening to you, my friends. Great talking to you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Guys, yeah, questions obviously for Dr. Corrie, of course for me. You know where to find us. We'd love to hear from you, genuinely. Keep owning it. Keep being extraordinary. And